Government of Tamil Nadu, Department of Archaeology presents Tharangampadi, Tranquebar Fort, Dansborg Museum, Tranquebar. Tharangampadi, the historic port, lies on the east coast in Porayaru Taluk of Nagapatnam district. It is situated on the Nagapatnam-Chidambaram road, 15 kilometers south of Kavaripumpatnam, the celebrated Chola port of the Sangam age, and 7 kilometers north of Karaikal. The river Porayar, locally referred to as Uppanaru, has a confluence with the Bay of Bengal on the southern side of the fort. The history of Tranquebar, Tharangampadi, can be traced back to the beginning of the Christian era. Ancient Sangam classics like the Purananuru, Natranai and Agananuru refer to Porayar. The famous poet Kalladanar praised the chieftain of Porayar in Puram 391. Porayar is referred to as a port town or Mantriyar. It is likely that the sea which originally skirted Porayar has receded by about a mile subsequent to the 2nd century AD. Porayar continued to play an important role in the history of Tranquebar until the 19th century. The earliest reference to Tharangampadi is in a 14th century inscription referring to the place as Sadanganpadi. The inscription also refers to a merchants' guild known as Padinen Vishayatar, traders of 18 commodities, and also a family of sailors called Karayar residing in Tharangampadi. It was thus already a commercial port, attracting traders from different countries overseas. Situated at the mouth of river Uppanaru, the port has provided access to inland trade from early times. The most ancient monument to survive in Tharangampadi is the Shiva temple, situated on the seashore. It is called the Marsilamani Natha temple. Provisions were made for a special offering in this Shiva temple, then called Manivaniswaram, in the reign of the Pandya ruler Maravarman Kulashekaran in the year 1305 AD. The main temple and its enclosure, as well as the front entrance, had come into existence before that period. A part of the entrance has now been engulfed by the sea. The temple of Lord Vishnu, now called Varadaraja, is also a pre-Danish edifice. An inscription found on the walls assignable to 1606 AD, that is, about 15 years prior to the arrival of the Danes, refers to the reconservation of the temple by one merchant, Vikramavitha Chettiar. This gentleman instituted worship, repairs, and festivals. In lieu of his contribution to the temple, he was given the privilege of trade in Chinese vessels called Samban Swadandiram. It also refers to the levy of tax upon the members of the Arya Natar community, who were the fishermen of the area. The fishermen of the port town of Tharangampadi probably celebrated an annual festival in the temple of Vardaraja Perumal in his fish incarnation. This is most likely what Olafsson alluded to in his account. The Danish East India Company. At the beginning of the 17th century, many European countries like the British, the French, the Dutch and the Danes vied with each other to establish maritime trade with India and formed the East India Companies for this purpose.
It was in 1620 when he sent 5 ships to India. These 5 ships should find some place on the coast here. But it was planned to do it in Ceylon, but Ceylon was full of Portuguese.
When these countries came to India, the Portuguese had already been here for nearly 100 years.
They have planned to be together with Dutch and Portuguese to take spices from India.
The Danish East India Company was established in Denmark in 1616. A Danish admiral, Ove Gede, was sent by the King of Denmark as his ambassador to India with 2 ships. He also had the help of a Danish captain, Roland Krapé. They reached the kingdom of Kandy in Sri Lanka, where they stayed for some time. As Roland Krapé had spent his early days in the Nayak court of Tanjore, he was sent to negotiate with the Nayak ruler, was able to impress the king of Tanjore, who wrote a fine letter to Ove Gede while in Sri Lanka.
We will try to make a handle place here. So we go to the king in the Naik in Tanjore and knock on the door and ask for permission to stay here. We should pay every year some rental for staying here. And after 2 years, we have get this agreement. And then we start to build the fort 1621.
Raghunatha Nayak, in this letter, informed Ove Gede that he was extending his friendship to the King of Denmark. The letter was written on a gold leaf resembling a palm leaf and was in the Tamil language. Raghunathan's signature is, however, in Telugu. This golden letter of friendship is also preserved in the Royal Archives, Copenhagen, and reads, "We, the Royal Highness Srimad Raghunatha Nayak, send this message to the ambassador of the King of Denmark on the 22nd day of Chitrai in the year Raudri."
People from Denmark came to here. They have some 2 points. You can have the choice. You can also go to India. And on the way from Denmark, it's very long distance. There they have, many of them were passed away because it was no good drinking water on the ships.
We are prospering here. Kindly dispatch the news about your Highness's prosperity. We are pleased to learn the news of that place brought to us by Captain Roland Krapé and the Holland General. Since we have agreed that we should not draw distinction between your Highness and ours, and have agreed to live as one, we have honored the Holland General and Captain Roland Krapé with palanquins and permit the subjects of that country to come and settle here. We order the creation of a port named Tarangampadi here and allow the export of pepper to that country as it is not available there. We have given appropriate warning to the Portuguese against the trouble they caused to Roland Krapé, fined them 12,000 pon, and have issued orders to them to not interfere with your ships.
And when they came here, they start to make a measurement of the fort. How big, how far away it should be from the seashore. And this time in 1820, it was a long distance outside to the water. It was not like it now where you can see the water.
We have sent back the general, since we have ordered that this place should be made suitable for the residence of Captain Roland Krapé. He is now residing there. As it has been resolved that we should not entertain distinction between our country and yours, we order that the people from your country could come and settle in this place.
So the Admiral Ove Gede is his name. He built the fort. He had learned this in the Dutch to build fort. And the seashore was far away and he could not, there is no harbor here. So they must stay outside in the water with the ships and take small boats to come in. And Ove Gede was never on the land here because he had the place on the boat.
Please arrange frequently to send us rare objects from your country. We are sending with this the following: 2 big pitambarams, silk garments, a male garment, 2 upper garments, 4 painted carpets, 2 jamutad swords, a dagger with lion handle, another dagger, and 4 singarams, bows. This letter was read by Dr. R. Nagaswamy at the Royal Archives, Copenhagen in 1978. Later, Ove Gedde himself went to Tanjore and negotiated the treaty. The Portuguese language was used then by South Indian rulers in their transactions with foreign powers.
But it was a lot of people that passed away here because they forgot to drink. Inside in the fort, you have make a picture from inside.
A treaty was drawn up thus in Portuguese and signed by Ove Gedde and the King of Tanjore.
And then we tried to find out to get pepper and cotton and silk. This was most of, but pepper was the spices what we need in Denmark. And for this we get a lot of money when we came back again.
This treaty, with the Tanjore king's signature, signed in 1620, is preserved in the Royal Archives, Copenhagen. Danish Fort. The fort was built in 1620 AD. Though most parts of the fort have been reconstructed several times, Tranquebar Fort itself consists of two large structures. One was the rampart wall, which was a fairly large four-sided structure with bastions at each cardinal point. Along the three inner sides of the fort wall, a single-storied building was constructed. These rooms were used as barracks, warehouse, kitchen, and jail.
On the wall it was the houses for the soldiers. And every time in the morning the soldiers should go out and then they closed the gate to the fort. Middle of the day they again go in, take breakfast, and again they close the door. And the same in the evening. And when some soldiers was not coming inside in the fort in the afternoon, then he must stay outside, he could not come in. And there's so many funny stories about when the soldiers tried to climb up off the wall to come in and was falling down and had laid down to next morning because the gate will not open before next morning.
On the eastern side of the fort, there was a two-storied building facing the sea. It was the main building of the fort. The vaulted lower story served as a magazine and a warehouse, while the vaulted upper story housed the church and the lodgings of the governor, the senior merchants, and the chaplain. The fort was surrounded by a moat, with the sea on the eastern side and the river on the southern side protecting it. Access to the fort was over a drawbridge. This moat, however, has completely disappeared. Because of the political situation, the British East India Company bought the Danish settlement in India in 1845.
In 1845, we have no more money to be in Tranquebar more. Because our king we have many kings, but the last one have spent so much money in the war from Sweden, from the Dutch, from the British.
So the Danish king sold the town and territory to the British East India Company.
So therefore the spices was not more necessary. So therefore we stopped to go to Tranquebar. We sell this to the British 1845.
Danish Museum. The antiquities connected with the colonial period and the Danish settlement in Tranquebar are exhibited here. The museum contains porcelain ware, Danish manuscripts, glass objects, Chinese tea jars, statued lamps, decorated terracotta objects, figurines, lamps, stones, sculptures, swords, daggers, spears, sudha or stucco figurines, and wooden objects. There is also part of a whale skeleton and some small cannonballs.
So the British take over Tranquebar, and the collector, the English collector, was staying in this hotel.
The Danish East India Company, established in 1616, arrived in India just like other European powers, the British, French, Portuguese, Dutch and others. At Tranquebar, they made themselves a base in 1620, after having obtained permission from the Nayak king of Tanjore. Their presence in the area changed the picture considerably, and although it was eventually brought to an end by the British East India Company, they left behind their mark on India. Today, the Tranquebar Fort stands testament to their presence, along with the Dansborg Museum.
I think 2-3 years it going down, going down, going down, and then ends. So today is Tranquebar is going up, going up, going up. It is some story about some girls he get some poisons and sleep in 200 years. And then the prince came and he kissed her. And then this poison coming up, and then she lived. And this is like Tranquebar, and Tranquebar is coming up, coming up. So Tranquebar is a very nice place, also for the tourists. Very.